Liam, in full disclosure, I must say that Peter Grauer is the chairman of Bloomberg LP. The parent of Bloomberg News is a senior independent non-executive director at Glencore. So, Liam, you had a Bloomberg View column out today that said what Glencore can do to kind of recover from this slump. What is it?
Well, I think there's two problems here for Glencore. One is the debt, and that's kind of a short-term issue that needs to be dealt with. They did announce some measures last month, including a rights issue, but clearly that hasn't really stopped the slide. I think their bigger problem is really around the business model. So while all the miners are down in this current commodities sell-off, the added twist with Glencore is that when it was IPO'd a few years ago, it was meant to be a slightly different beast because it had this trading business. It had grown out of the Mark Rich trading business from back in the 70s and 80s. And it was just meant to be able to do better whether the market was up or down. And clearly that hasn't happened. And I think that's leading people to question about the whole business model and whether it really makes sense for Glencore to be a public company.
Liam, is there any reason to think that Glencore could have any sort of systemic qualities, things that would make its problems spill into other companies? I believe that's like a source of angst right now is, yes, Glencore on its own doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but you see markets selling off, more broadly. Could Glencore bleed elsewhere?
Could Glencore, you mean bleed into the wider commodities market in general?
Yeah, or create sort of systemic type risk that we haven't seen in a while.
It's possible. I mean, I think part of the problem with the commodities markets is that they have always tended to operate under the radar. So, and this was actually the strange thing about Glencore. It was kind of surprising that they became a public company because typically these large commodity houses have operated behind closed doors. So it's hard to say whether any problems at Glencore would cause a wider dislocation in the market. I think it's generally unhelpful. I mean, I think if you look at the headlines just today, we've had Shell pull back in Alaska. We've had Alcoa announce a split. It's clear that all these business models are under a lot of stress amid these slumping commodity markets. A lot of companies went out and spent a lot of money during the boom. A lot of them borrowed money. A lot of them made big acquisitions. And now it's all really coming home to roost.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and that was really at the core of the Investec note, Liam, which showed how Glencore's debt in this case, if commodities prices stay here, will steadily increase while the market cap will steadily decrease. Would you agree with this kind of assessment where shareholder value could just be completely wiped out?
It's definitely possible. I mean, that's the second note that Glencore has seen like this in the past week. Goldman put out a similar note last week. And I think this is the bind that they're in. Glencore was always known for being a very savvy trader. And it's now in the position where all it takes is a research report from the sell side to basically knock nearly a third off its value. That's not a position that it's used to being in, and they are going to have to move really quickly now to get out ahead of this.
Yeah, and what was so fascinating in your article on Bloomberg View is that you were calling in some respects for Glencore to go private. Do you think that Ivan Glassenberg's ego is going to let them do that at some point?
It's a good question. I think in the end, necessity is the mother of invention, and I think even egos get trumped by whatever the market says.
And in the meantime, do they have any other kind of hope to help? I mean, Joe and I were talking earlier that September 16th they had a share equity offering, and that share offering is now down 46%. I mean, what kind of investor is going to want to lend them money at this point?
Well, I don't think they're going to be able to do another rights issue at this level of below 70 pence a share. I mean, they do still have great assets. One of the things that I raised in the column this morning was that they could actually go out and sell some of the physical assets that they got, particularly some of the ones they got with Xstrata. Ironically, the ex-boss of Xstrata is out there and has a fund waiting to buy assets.
Right.
It's possible they could call him up and sell some back to him.